You know those numbers we hear every day? GDP is up, inflation's down. We tend to treat them like they're facts, carved in stone. But what if I told you they're not? What if the numbers we use to understand our economy are actually more like shifting sands? Well, today we're going to dive into a fascinating paper that shows a growing uncertainty right at the heart of the data we all rely on. So here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at why these economic numbers are always changing. Then, we'll get a clear definition of what data uncertainty really is. We'll check out the tools researchers use to actually measure it, and then look at a decade's worth of data that shows this doubt is growing. We'll even dig into the surprising reason why before we wrap it all up with why this really matters to you. All right, let's jump right in. We all tend to think of an economic number, like GDP, as the single final thing. But the truth? It's much more like a moving target. I mean, it seems like the most basic question you could ask about the economy, right? You'd think the answer would be a simple yes or no. But, well, it's a whole lot messier than that. Here's why. The numbers you first hear on the news, they're really just a first draft. They're an initial estimate. But as more complete data rolls in, from businesses, from surveys, from sales reports, that first draft gets updated. And sometimes those updates can totally flip the story. It's this constant battle between getting the data out fast versus getting it perfectly right. And this whole process has a name: data revision. The statistical agencies are always fine-tuning the picture. They get more accurate sales figures, they update how they calculate things, or they change the baseline year for their measurements. So in a way, our understanding of what happened in the economic past is constantly evolving. Okay, so this constant revising of the numbers isn't just some nerdy statistical detail. It is, in and of itself, a source of genuine uncertainty. And researchers have a specific name for it: data uncertainty. Now, this is different from just worrying about a recession or what politicians are doing. This is uncertainty that comes directly from the fact that the data itself is always in flux. It's actually become its own field of study. Now, not all revisions are created equal. You can basically sort them into two buckets: news and noise. A news revision is a good thing. It means we're getting new, real information that we just didn't have before. Noise, on the other hand, that's basically just fixing a measurement mistake in the first draft. And here is the key, the absolute crucial point. For the big stuff we care about, like GDP, the research shows these revisions are almost all news. So the data collectors are doing their jobs right. But this creates a weird paradox. Even when the system is working perfectly, the simple fact that we know today's number will change tomorrow creates uncertainty for anyone trying to make a decision right now. So you're probably wondering, how on earth do you measure something as fuzzy as data uncertainty? Well, economists have cooked up some pretty clever tools to get a handle on it. First up is something called the signal-to-noise ratio, or SNR. The easiest way to think about it is as a data quality score. If the score is high, close to 1, it means that that first number they released, the signal, was super clear and accurate. But a low score, that means the first signal was weak and fuzzy, and there's a lot more uncertainty about the real number. The second tool is called entropy, and yeah, they literally borrowed the concept from physics. It's just a way to measure unpredictability. If the data revisions tend to be small and predictable, you have low entropy. But if the revisions are huge and all over the map, that's high entropy, and it's a sure sign of high data uncertainty. Okay, so we've got our toolkit. Now let's put it to work and see what the data has been telling us. And honestly, the story of the last decade is pretty traumatic. Let's start with that signal-to-noise ratio, our data quality score. This chart here shows the trend for the euro area, and yikes. You don't have to be a statistician to see which way that line is heading. It's going down, and a falling score means those first draft numbers we get are becoming less and less reliable. In other words, uncertainty is on the rise. And now for our other tool, entropy. What do we see? The exact opposite pattern. It's rising, more unpredictability. And look at that big jump right around the 2008 Great Recession. So both of our tools are screaming the exact same message from two different directions. Our economic data is getting harder to pin down. And if you're thinking, oh, that's just a European problem, think again. This is a global thing. Over here on the left, you see the entropy measure for the euro area. On the right, for the US. The patterns are shockingly similar. Both show a clear climb in data uncertainty with those same massive spikes right around the 2008 financial crisis. So, this leads us to the million-dollar question, right? If our data is getting fuzzier and more uncertain, what's behind it? What's the cause? I mean, are the statisticians just getting worse at their jobs all of a sudden? Or is there something deeper happening in the economy itself that's just making it harder to measure? Well, the researchers actually tested this. They looked to see if there was a link between what they call economic policy uncertainty, all the fighting over taxes, regulations, and spending, and our data uncertainty. And the result was crystal clear. It's a one-way street. And here's the big takeaway. When economic policy gets more unpredictable, it makes the actual economy harder to measure accurately. Think about it. An unstable policy environment creates real-world volatility, and the early data just can't keep up. The effect isn't instant, but that policy chaos eventually ripples out and makes the numbers themselves less certain. Look, I know this can all feel a little academic, but this rise in data uncertainty has huge, real-world consequences for every single one of us. So let's break down why this really matters. Just think about it. It means policymakers at central banks are trying to set interest rates while looking through a foggier windshield. It means businesses trying to decide whether to build a new factory or hire more people are staring into a murkier crystal ball. And for all of us, it just makes it that much harder to get a clear read on what's really going on with the economy. This quote from the paper really ties it all together. They're basically saying that their discovery, this rise in data uncertainty, fits perfectly with what so many other economists have been finding, that since the 2008 financial crisis, everything has just gotten more uncertain. This is a critical new piece of that puzzle. So all this leaves us with one final big question. We all want our economic numbers to be certain, to be a solid foundation we can count on. But maybe in today's complex, fast-moving world, the most important thing isn't the number itself, but actually understanding the uncertainty that's baked right into it.